Hey everybody, we're going to give people just a few minutes to join in. Just make sure I got everybody's who's here. So who is registering as LG Stylo 4? You can send me a chat or just let me know. Okay, we're just going to give everybody just a couple minutes to. We're missing just a couple people. So whoever has the screen name LG Stylo 4, can you just tell me who you are so I can get you down here? So is just gonna check, is Dominic here? Or Sam? Not seeing you on here. Okay. Is there anybody that can't hear me or see me before we get started? Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. I really just have two things that I want to talk about today, and that is the exam on Friday. So I want to spend majority of stuff just going over the ins and outs of that, how you're going to take it, etc. And then I'll spend a little time at the end just going over the schedule that I sent out last Monday, if there's any questions over that. So I'll try to keep this pretty general. If you have general questions about what's going on in the course, the schedule, the exam, and then if you have more content specific individual questions, we can address those via email, different things like that. But so let's go ahead and talk about the exam. So first thing is it will be on Talon. So you will go on to Talon just like you do with the quizzes, and you'll take the exam there, and I will show you where that is in just a second. So that's the sort of the first big thing. And it will be, again, similar setup to what exams have been in the past. There'll be multiple choice and matching questions. That'll make up about 60% of the exam, 60 points. And then there will be still short answer questions, and I'll explain how you answer those when we get there. And that'll be the remaining 40 points, or the 40% of the test. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you here. A second. Okay. So is there anybody that cannot see my screen? Just let me know.
I cannot.
I also can't.
Okay, let me check here. Make sure it's okay here. There we go. How about now?
Yep, that's good.
Okay,
Thank
perfect. Yeah. So when you go into Talon, you will go into the course generally, and you'll see right under the syllabus, you'll see a link for exams. So you're just going to go in there, and the exam will be the first thing. So exam 3. It'll look, I mean, I can open it up here. It's not going to let me do anything, but it'll look very much like a quiz would. There's some instructions here that, and so forth. And you'll have a link to start the quiz, or to start, that'll be called the quiz, but you'll to start the exam. Now, within that, the first 15 numbered items will be the multiple choice matching. There's actually, I think, what is it, 20 some of those. There were 2.5 points each, but of course the matching, there's multiple parts. So each part, just like on the exam, each part is worth that same 2.5 points this time to get up to 60. So you'll go through and you'll work through those multiple choice and matching, and you'll enter your exam answers on Talon just like normal, and that'll be for that part. Now the short answer part is where you have to do a little bit more, and that's what I want to start to explain here. And so what you'll need to do is you'll need to print this short answer problem worksheet, and I'll open that up in a second and show you. I'll pull it up on screen here so you can see it. And this will be where you do your work for your short answer problems. Now, as it says here in the instructions, most of the short answers will have a place for you to enter your final answer, just like you would for another kind of question. But then the work to get to that final answer will be shown on this worksheet, and those will be graded as normal short answer questions for partial credit, etc. So while that final answer will be recorded, what I'll really be looking at is the work and leading up to that final answer, just like I would on a normal exam.
And would you want that? Would you want us to put the numbers of the problems there?
It's all laid out for you, and I'll show you that, but in just a second. Yep. Okay. Yeah, exactly. And then you're going to submit that work into the third item here, which is the submission folder for that work. So that's kind of how it's going to work. Just a couple of other basic points before I show you that sheet. The exam will be open starting at 6:30 in the morning on Friday, and will be due at 10 p.m. You will have, once you start it, you will have 75 minutes to do it. So I'm giving, I mean, it's not written to be any longer. It's basically the same exam I would have given you in class in terms of the questions, but I built in a little more time there because of the logistics of doing it on Talon and so forth. So you'll have 75 minutes to do that. And again, 60% multiple choice matching, 40% from the short answers. Okay. Any general questions before I show you this worksheet or where you're going to do your work?
What if we don't have a printer?
Okay. Let's see. Printer, let me think about it. That might be what I could look. What you could do is download the. I mean, the problem is we're gonna have to have some way to. Let's see. Let me think about that for a second, and I'm sure we can come up with something, but let me think about that for a second here while I show you this. Let's see, I got it open already, I think. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is essentially what it's gonna look like. So the first page will be your normal first page of your exam, which will have your equations and so forth. And the periodic table, etc. Now, starting on the second page, this is where your work is going to be. I'll come back to the first part here in a second, but let me just show you. So in general, when you're taking it in Talon, the short answer questions will start at 16 in the Talon exam, and so what you'll do is, you'll do the questions themselves will be in Talon, and so you're going to do the work here to solve that problem. You will enter your final answer in Talon, and the work leading up to that final answer will be recorded here. A couple of general notes here is that you should, when you enter your answers on Talon, include the appropriate units. And I've tried to make that as clear as possible in the question. I'll spell it out in the sense of, I'll tell you to enter your final answer in kilojoules, or, there may not be units for all of them, like if you're an equilibrium constant. But as you should enter using the units as noted in the question. If you do need to enter a scientific notation answer, this is the format to use. So you want to put the decimal and then an X and then 10, and a caret, and then whatever the exponent is with no spaces. That's how the answer was, how they're entered in there. So that's how I would have you put in anything that you're in scientific notation with. Now, of course, if there's an issue with formatting in that answer and it's actually correct, I will see that when I see your work, and I won't hold, that's not going to be counted against you. I will adjust any kind of points for the short answer problems. Those points will come out of what I do when I grade your actual written work, not necessarily the answer that you put in there. I mean, if that's a placeholder, if you will, for the short answer problems, until I grade the actual work.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. She can maybe just put behind his arm. Yeah.
And so you're going to work through the questions. The only one that doesn't have an answer that you enter into Talon is part B here. So there's no answer to enter into Talon here. You'll just do your work here. But you'll go 18, 19, 20, 21. So 16 through 21 are the short answer problems. And there is one additional question. Again, there is a space to enter your answer on Talon, and this is an extra credit or bonus question. that's listed, will be listed as 22 on the exam. And the work for that extra credit will, of course, go here. Okay. So questions about that part, about, you know, you're gonna put your answer on this sheet. Okay, so the mechanics of this, right, will be that you will scan or photograph. Speaking of that, and this is a general thing, if you're one that is taking pictures and submitting them either for any kind of assignment, I would recommend that instead of actually just taking pictures of it, that you use one of the free scanning programs that you can get for your phone. If you absolutely don't have one or can't get one, that's fine. I mean, the pictures are fine. It's just, it's sometimes hard to get the pictures formatted right. They often will be landscape instead of vertical and so forth. But there's a couple, at least a couple good scanning programs that that I've used. One of them is Tiny Scanner. Other one is Chem Scanner. I know some of you already use them because I've gotten submissions that I know are from them. But that's a really good way to do it. And it most of those programs will automatically format them as PDF files. And so that way you don't have to worry about the formatting. You can rotate those pretty easily if they're already in a PDF file format. And one thing I saw with Cam Scanner, and maybe this may have always been true, but I did see it definitely now, is that if you sign up with a student ID or a student email, that you'll get access to the premium features in the program for free with the free version if you register it using your student email. So just a couple of things to keep in mind as you're looking at an easy way to, you know, to get these, to get this work in a format that's easy to upload into the submissions folder. And so what the expectation is that that short answer work that you're doing during the test will be submitted within 20 minutes. If it's 30 minutes, I'm not going to make a big deal. If it starts getting longer than 30 minutes, then there may be a question here since you have all day to take it. But so it should be within 20 to 30 minutes of when you complete your exam. So whenever that timestamp is that you submit the exam, then the work should be submitted to the submissions folder within 20 to 30 minutes of that time. And then the last little thing here is there is a place for you to sign and print your name here, which is essentially just stating that that the work on there is done by you without consulting during the exam, books, internet, et cetera, as you take the exam. See. One other thing about this that I'll let you make a note of is that there will be, you will not have access to other Unit 3 Talon materials during the time of the exam. So access to the Unit 3 folder will be restricted from, 7:30 a.m. till the exam time opens till the exam time closes. So just make it in the case that if you might want to download or print off things like the study guide key or something, if you were planning on reviewing that on Friday morning or something before you take the exam. Okay, so questions at this point?
Yeah, so can we write all of our work so it's faster down on paper, and then after we take the exam, just input it here? So, because it'll be faster if we write it down instead of inputting it here right away.
I guess, you mean you can, you can, I mean, when you're printing this off, you can, I mean, you can write it right on a printed version of this. Is that what you're?
Oh, okay. Never mind. I didn't know we were printing it off.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't have to be typed onto here. It can be. This can be handwritten. That would be my expectation, that you would print this off and write on it just like you would on the exam.
Okay.
Yep. Now, if somebody does not have access to a printer, as somebody said, that is one solution that you could do, is you could record or write down by hand all of your work during the exam, and then within that half an hour or so after the exam, you could, you know, put it in a typed format on here and submit that directly into the submission folder as an, you know, as an electronic file. That would be one solution if you're unable to print it off in advance. I will, while the exam won't be open until that morning, I will make this sheet available before that. So probably, you know, tomorrow, Wednesday, I'll make this sheet available so that you have access to this. So if you can print it off a day ahead, you don't have to wait until Friday morning to print this off. So if it's something maybe that you don't have ready access to a printer, if you could print it off at a friend's, or, you know, that's another potential solution. But if it turns out that it's a real issue for somebody, please contact me separately and we'll figure out a solution. That's not a limitation for you completing the exam. It shouldn't be. Other questions about the exam per se, or specifically here? I'm gonna end this so we can just get back to that.
How are we supposed to get the like the change in enthalpy and entropy and free energy numbers? Like, do you want us to just have a copy printed from the book, or is it going to be included in the question, or how's that going to work?
Everything that you need will be included in the question. So any kind of values that you might normally look up in the back of the book will be provided for you in the question.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know if, for example, the problem part, I can write it by hand, writing, and then to print, to take a picture, and then to download it, to send it at the end.
Right. So the normal way that I would anticipate most people will do it is to print off the sheet in advance and then write on the sheet as you're taking the exam. And then scan or take a picture of, or like I said, use one of the programs that I talked about. Again, those are here. I'll send out a chat for those just in case people didn't hear it. They were Chem Scanner and Tiny Scanner, I think, are the two, at least the two that I've used. There's, I'm sure, others out there that other people may know of that work just as well. That will, whoops, I want to send this out to everyone.
Okay, doctor, when can we have the form to print it out?
The answer sheet, I will make that available either this afternoon or tomorrow. That'll be available to print out. The answer sheet that I was just showing you, is that what you're referring to?
Okay.
Yes. Other questions about the exam?
how much time the exam gonna take?
You have 75 minutes to complete the exam.
Okay.
It's written as an hour exam. It's basically, like I said, basically the same exam I would give you in class in terms of the questions.
Mhm.
But you have a little extra time because of the format we're doing it in is a little more cumbersome, I think.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So, any other questions about the exam?
No.
Anybody? Okay. So if you think of any, just go ahead and chime in or send me a chat or whatever if you have any. But I'm gonna switch gears and talk about the schedule that I gave you, that I sent out on Monday. So if you do have any general questions about that, we can go ahead and take those. I'm gonna pull that up so that we can look at it. Oops. So that's not, let me get the right one. There we go. Okay, so before I get into the schedule, I want to give you a couple big picture items just so that are different from the original syllabus in the course. So first of all, there will be no exam 4. So we were originally scheduled to have an exam the last week of classes over the last 2 chapters, 20 and 21. With the logistics that everybody has to deal with now, I don't want to try to make you take one exam and then the week later take the final exam. So I'm eliminating that exam 4, and that information will be just weighted a little bit more on the final exam. And I'll talk more about the final exam at our next meeting the week before the final specifically, but so there'll be no exam 4. And additionally, there is going to be no ACS exam. There's not a way that I can give that exam online or virtually. So we have to eliminate that exam. So no exam 4, no ACS exam. The other thing that I've had a couple questions about in terms of requirements is the lab notebook. There is no more lab notebook requirement. I will not be collecting them or grading them in any way besides what I've already done. So you no longer need to do anything in the lab notebooks. I mean, if you want to work on the lab, the remaining lab in there, that's fine, just as a place to work on it, but I won't be collecting them anymore. So those are, I think, some of the bigger things that have changed from the original syllabus. So now let's talk about the schedule here. So the first page, I put some general stuff, a general overview. My office hours, these will be the normal office hours. They will differ from time to time. As you hopefully noticed in the email that I sent out last night, that they are different this week because of your exam and this Zoom meeting. So there'll be the exams, or the office hours are a little different this week. So make a note of that and just check that email. I do have some on Thursday. So if you're having questions right before the exam, that there will be a time on Thursday where you can do that as well. And then for our what are now be our regular Friday check-in emails. We had our first one this week, and I know there was a few confusions and so forth. But if anybody, if you weren't sure where to find the questions, right, they're right here. And so when I'm referring to the Friday email, this is the basic questions that I want, you know, informal feedback. Again, I'm not grading you on this except that you respond, right? You know, if you haven't watched the videos, you haven't watched the videos, right? If you haven't done the reading, yeah, that's fine. All of these things, except for the assignments, are, you know, not requirements in the sense of that you have to do them and you're going to be graded on them. They're there to help you prepare, right? So if watching the videos help you, but reading the book doesn't, well, then watch the videos. If the videos don't help you so much and you just want to read over the PowerPoints, then read over the PowerPoints. You know, it's designed to be different things that are there to help you. And this is just a way to sort of self-check that you're sort of keeping up with the material. And so it doesn't have to be, again, a formal, you know, where you respond, you know, specifically just put a few words response to each of these 4 prompts, then that's what I'm looking for. But those are the questions, and they're the same every week. So it's not, that's where you can find what information that I'm looking for in that email on Friday. And just a note on this, if your schedule is such that, you know, your Friday is really bad because you have you know, work or whatever it might be, you know, just give me a heads up, you know, that I'm going to send it to you Thursday night, or I'm going to send it to you Friday. I'm going to send it to you Saturday. You know, that's fine. I'm not, you know, this is not meant to be, you know, I put a deadline on it. I put a time frame to make it easy for people to keep a schedule. But like I said, just give me a heads up that you're going to send it to me on Saturday, or that you're going to send it to me on Thursday, and that's fine. Now, I'm not going to go through everything in this schedule, but I'll first open it up to where, is there anything in here that did not make sense to people? That's really the biggest thing that I want to make sure, is that if there's things written here that you don't know what they are or that don't make sense, at least that you've noticed so far. Okay. So I'm just going to hit on a couple of the things then. So for this week, we don't have a quiz, just like normal, because we have an exam. But normally during the week, right, we'll have the quiz, we'll have the Friday check-in. We may or may not have a homework assignment, just depending on our schedule. Usually we have a homework assignment due every 1 or 2 weeks because we're doing longer chapters. There is only one more lab, right, that's actually due, and that's going to be due next week, next Thursday. I will make that available either by the end of the week or early next week to work on. I don't expect you to spend a whole lot of time doing this until after the exam. And it'll be in the same format as the last couple have been, where it is essentially you're doing the analysis that you would have done in the exam, but I'll be providing you with the information to base that analysis on. And I'll format it on a separate, you know, as a separate assignment, and you can use the original lab handout as a reference, right, for background information, et cetera, as well as the chapter in the book, of course. But everything that you need to submit and do will be on that assignment. And so there is, again, I've had a couple questions about, there are no pre-labs anymore that you submit separately. Anything that would have been part of a pre-lab will just potentially be part of this assignment. So there's just one thing to submit, and that's whatever is required in the assignment that's posted. And that's actually the last lab. That's, so you really just have the one more requirement for lab, and that is to submit this lab on the 23rd. So also want to make a couple notes while we're here just about the final. I don't want to talk specifically about it. We will get into that in your second required Zoom meeting that we'll have on the 6th of May. So during that last sort of week of classes that we would normally have. And we'll talk specifically about the final, but I did want to, just so those of you who are planning, since we're not having final exam periods in like a 2-hour slot like we would, your exam would normally have been on Friday. And so what I will do is I will have that a final exam. It will be on Talon, just like the exam that you're going to be taking. The final exam will be all multiple choice and matching. It would have been that way anyway, right? That's how it would have been if you took it in the normal situation. And you will have about a 2-day window to do that. So because your exam is on Friday, I will open it up the beginning of Thursday, and you will have until Friday 10 or 11 p.m. I may change this a little bit, but to actually complete that or submit that final exam. And so if you're kind of planning out your schedule with other classes, different classes will probably be doing it a little differently. So, but that's how it's going to work in here. So questions about the schedule, about general items going forward in the semester with this online format that we're all dealing with right now.
I have a question over the problem set.
Right, okay, yep.
Will you be posting the answers to that?
Yeah, and so good, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, the problem set that's due this week, pull that up here. So this problem set that's due this week, that will be treated just like a normal problem set we would do before a lab in a lab session. And so I will not be grading that for correctness. I will be grading it for completion, just like I would if you were doing it normally. And I will provide the answer set to those right after this due time, right? So I'll give you up to here to kind of work on it, work it out, and then I'll post the answer keys for these problems. But again, if you submit them and it's not 100% correct, that's okay. What I'm looking for is that, that you've attempted the problems for completion, right? And then again, you can use the posted answer key to check through those as a way to review for the exam. Other questions? Okay, I don't have any other major points that I want to go over. Of course, if you guys have any questions for me, please reach out via email or remind, or and I will try to address those. If you have questions that you want me to address right now, you can stay logged in, and we can spend a little time, another 10-15 minutes that we have here, and I can answer maybe a little more specific questions for individuals if you want to do that as well. But before we conclude this, I'm just going to double check one more time. Is Sam here? Or Dominic? I want to make sure I don't miss them. Okay. I think everybody else, I have you recorded as being here. So if you don't have any more questions for me, you can go ahead and leave the meeting. And again, just contact me if you have any other questions as we get up to the exam.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
You're welcome. Did you have questions?